All right, hello everyone. My name is Brian Christensen. I'm the public sector practice leader at Sierra-Cedar. I'll be hosting this episode of On Cloud 9, which is a series in which Sierra-Cedar clients answer 9 questions related to their implementation of Oracle Cloud applications. It's my pleasure to be joined today by distinguished guests from the City of Stamford, Connecticut, as they discuss the project that we're currently working with them on. First, I'd like to introduce Sandy Denise. She's the Director of Administration at the city. How are you doing, Sandy?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for
Nice
joining.
to be here.
Thank you. I'd also like to introduce Chuck Williams. Chuck is the city's Oracle Application Implementation Project Manager. Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being my guest on this episode of On Cloud 9. We're going to have a good time. I've got some intriguing questions that I'm sure the audience is going to be interested in hearing about through the course of this interview. But first, I'd like to describe the City of Stamford, Connecticut, especially for folks that haven't been there before. It's an awesome city. With a population of 135,000 people. It's the second most populous in the state of Connecticut. And if you've had a chance to visit there recently, you'd notice just a ton of construction around new commercial space as well as condominiums. A lot of people are choosing to move there. A big reason why people are moving there is that it's got a vibrant, culturally rich area with parks, beaches, recreational opportunities, easy access to New York City and other big metroplexes in the Northeast, and it's in the 94th percentile as one of the safest cities in the country. So you'll see people out and about, young professionals, folks that have decided to move their families there, enjoying all the amenities of the city both day and night. It's also home to 9 Fortune 500 companies, making it one of the largest concentrated corporate centers in America and attracting many new businesses and residents, as I mentioned. Also, talking about the government for the City of Stamford, it's a full service municipality. It employs more than 1,100 people and is organized into 37 departments, including police, fire, and other operational organizations that serve the community within Stamford. Also, part of the City of Stamford is the Board of Education. So Stamford Public Schools has more than 2,200 employees that educate approximately 17,000 kids at 28 schools. So this project involves both the city government as well as the school district. And both of those organizations are uniting to standardize procedures, improve business practices, and implement the application on a single platform. The project kicked off in November 2021 and is scheduled to go live in January 2023. So this discussion will capture observations from both Sandy and Chuck really at the midpoint of their project. And hopefully we'll get back together at the end of the project so you can reflect on the second half as well. As background, the city made the strategic decision in 2021 to replace their antiquated Central Square ERP applications with Oracle Cloud Financials, projects and grants, procurement and inventory, budget development. We're using the Teller application for cashiering functionality, and there's a future phase which includes the implementation of Oracle Cloud Community Development for permitting and licensing. The format of this webcast is that I'll be asking Sandy and Chuck 9 questions to enable you as the audience to learn more about the project outcomes that they've experienced as well as lessons learned. They're looking forward to sharing their experience with you. I'm looking forward to the discussion, so let's go ahead and get started. So Sandy, one of the things that I found really interesting when we started working with the city was the slogan that you have. It says "Innovating since 1641," which I think is very clever. It captures the rich tradition of the city, obviously going back to 1641, as well as your commitment to creativity and continuous improvement. Aligned with this pursuit of progress, the city's made the decision to modernize its financial applications with Oracle Cloud ERP. Would you kindly describe the purpose and objectives for this project?
Absolutely. The city has a financial system right now that's nearly 30 years old. It's very close to no longer being supported by the company that actually owns the system. The business processes of that system are as they were when it was implemented in the 1990s. You know, department employees using the system can't even see the status of their budget real time. And they've for the most part, develop side systems to help them know where they are relative to their use of budgeted line items. So in an effort to modernize the system, we did an RFQ to identify a project lead, which is where we got Chuck from. ISG was selected, and Chuck is our project lead. And then we did a two-phased RFP to identify the appropriate ERP vendor, which was really interesting. Oracle was unanimously selected. I'm very proud of that. And it was unanimously selected for a variety of reasons. It allowed employees to see their budget real time and to address a paperless approval process, because things move from in the network from for approvals at various levels in a transaction. And then it also provided better cybersecurity, and it leveraged Oracle's facilities and safeguards, which is very important to us. It included a lot of functionality that the city found to be important in costing out programs that the city operates across multiple departments. And it's capable of integrating with other currently siloed systems so that the data that they store is integrated with our ERP. And I think the most important reason why we selected Oracle is because they do quarterly upgrades, and you can't just decide that you're not going to do them. So our business processes will remain current as we go through. Instead of having a stagnant system implemented, we're selecting a system that will keep our business processes current as the years move forward. So we're very, very happy with the selection that we made, and very much looking forward to the next few months when we actually begin to test the system with our data in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and all those observations and objectives are certainly consistent with the city's slogan for innovation. So it's great to be part of that rich tradition of innovating since 1641, and your future with Oracle Cloud applications will certainly reinforce that. So appreciate you sharing that. So Chuck, the next question's for you. In the past 2 years, society's experienced a shift in how organizations operate, specifically as it pertains to working remotely. Can you talk a bit about how the Oracle Cloud ERP is expected to benefit this city on that front?
Sure. As a cloud application, Oracle is accessed through a web browser. So whether you're in the office or in a remote location, you can always access the application through a web browser, and it behaves exactly the same way regardless of where you are. No additional software, no remote access controller or anything like that. So people will be able to operate in any location exactly the way they do in the office. So that's something that was also part of our decision.
Great. Great. So the next question is also for you, Chuck. What's the coolest Oracle Cloud feature that the user community will utilize in the application?
Well, there are a few things. The user interface is going to be far and above the current system, and one of the reasons that we selected Oracle was that we were looking for a system that we could grow into. And so there's a lot of excitement about what we can do in the future and the kinds of functionality that we can implement that we may not implement right away. In addition to that, there is a very high interest in the analytics that comes with Oracle, the analytical tools. Again, today it's almost non-existent, and so the ability to use a business intelligence tool and develop dashboards and other types of analytics is very exciting to everyone. And Sandy already mentioned the electronic approvals. Today, a lot of the business processes are paper-based, and getting those transactions online in electronic format and routing them electronically will save a lot of time for the city and make business processes much more efficient.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Chuck. So Sandy, the next question's for you. You know, these projects, you know, are typically laid over people's traditional job duties. And the thing that I think I'm curious about is how have you motivated the team, you know, to keep morale up, to make people energetic about the application, and really what you're going to achieve through the course of the project?
I will tell you that given that our system is so old and does not include a lot of the features that Oracle has, I think people are pretty motivated to see the new system and to see how it operates. Chuck also does a monthly newsletter to keep people up to date on where we are. And we have a couple of organizational discussions with people. We've identified our subject matter experts. We've identified our leads. We keep everybody up to date on where we are. And I think everybody just wants to see and feel the system with their information on it. So motivation is not a problem. We do have a couple of departments that I think are probably going to need a little more coaching than others. But I don't know any other implementation that doesn't have areas where it's going to be a little bit tougher to make the changes with the people that are operating the system. But I think that we have a very positive and energized team looking forward to get their hands on that system.
Good. So in other words, setting up a system from the 2020s is motivation enough, moving from a system from the 1990s.
We frequently hear our team saying things like, "Really, the system can do that?"
Yeah.
and that keeps them excited.
Show me, right?
Right.
Great. Awesome. So now I got a fun question for both of you. If you had to choose a song which best describes the journey to the cloud, what would it be? Sandy, why don't you go first?
Chuck and I agree on this one.
Oh, okay.
It's Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead.
Nice.
We are moving.
That's great. I got that song in my head now. So that song was probably released in the 70s, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but it's so true.
Yeah. We were sitting thinking, and it really is. I mean, we can't go back. And,
Right.
you know, everybody's still interested, so nothing's going to stop us.
Yeah.
Well, I promise I'm going to bring my boombox and I'm going to play that during the kickoff meeting, or during the Project Go Live celebration. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, good. So Chuck, another question for you. So what has been your biggest revelation or takeaway from the project so far?
Well, I think really it's being prepared for the commitment that is required for a project like this. And, you know, we didn't wait until we kicked off the project or we started design sessions. I've been with the city for about 18 months now, so about a year before we started the project. And throughout the whole year, whenever I had the opportunity, I talked about the commitment and the hard work and the feeling like you have two jobs frequently and that kind of thing. And I think that has really helped people understand that it is hard, but it is required, and there's going to be a big payback at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess this question is, and Sandy, did you have something to add to that?
Well, we have an employee town hall next week, and we're going to be talking about that as well with all the employees, just to make certain everybody realize, you know, we're at the go point, and now we really have to make certain that everybody is focused on getting their work done, and working on the system. And it's going to be hard, but it's really going to be worth it. And then the mayor has invited Chuck and I to make a presentation to her cabinet so that we can make certain that we lay out the expectations for the individuals that are in each of the departments, and the pressure that they're going to be under, to make certain that they're giving their time to implementing the project as well as doing their regular work. So
Right.
I think communication for us has been very, very important, to make certain that we just keep the messaging going on what we're doing.
Yeah. And this question, the next question is similar to that. It's really what the reaction from the user community as well as the project team has been to the new system so far. So, I mean, what's their reaction been as far as what they've seen so far and what they've been exposed to? And that relates to user community. Obviously, the project team's been in it, so I'd be interested in hearing about that. And Chuck, maybe you could go first.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time developing the current state analysis and going out to the departments and talking to them. And some of the time during those meetings, I talked about what the future was going to look like. And I was met with a lot of excitement from the various departments I talked to and the people I talked to. And that remains. I've had projects in the past where you make a request for information from a department and you may or may not get a response. At Stamford, I get a response within a day or two at the most. And it just continues to show that the entire city is very excited about getting this new system. There's a derogatory name for what HTE stands for that I won't repeat, but the people are not happy with the current system, so they're excited to see the new one.
I'm imagining what that name might be. My imagination is running wild.
I bet.
That might be one of those not safe for work conversations.
Right.
So Sandy, did you have anything to add to that as far as reaction and feelings that you're perceiving from the user community and the project team?
No, for the most part, the employees are really anxious to see the new system and to witness the new functionality and to see, something that is easier to use. And no, we are definitely looking forward to being able to roll out the testing that's coming next week, actually.
Yep. Well, great. The next question's for you, Sandy. So the city evaluated many systems through the course of your procurement process. What are some of the reasons why Oracle was chosen over others?
Very interesting. We saw a lot of systems, and I think, Chuck, what did we see? Eight different systems. And of all of the systems that we saw, the functionality of Oracle was really what gave us hope. The innovative architecture and the vision of Oracle was head and shoulders above a lot of the other systems. And I think the very interesting thing is we did see other systems that had very inventive front ends, but when you got into the actual functionality in the back end, they had not made the changes yet. It was still the old system. And so, like I said earlier, Oracle was selected unanimously by the various levels that we put the approval to, and so it went from the steering committee unanimously to the governance committee unanimously, and then with the blessings of the mayor and. Very, very happy. And the contracts that Chuck and I took through the boards were all, very well addressed by all of the boards. So we're very happy with how we got to the point that we are at right now.
Great.
Yeah. The other thing, Brian, is that, I talked earlier about the ability to grow into a system, but on top of that, we had some very brief scripts that we wanted people to follow. And at the end of the demos, everybody had a very strong feeling about whether they had seen what we asked for, but more importantly, if they had seen anything that was beyond what we asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And we found with a lot of these systems that we looked at that they had shown us their best shot, and it just wasn't exciting to us. And Oracle, of course, came in and showed us the current shot, so to speak, and they were able to show us some other things that are very interesting for us to get into in the future.
Great. Yeah, I remember the demos like it was yesterday. You know, that was you know, an engaged audience from the city and from the schools, and we learned a lot about the city and the schools. You know, we're not always as fortunate with such a, I guess, such a engaged organization. I'm sure a lot of it came from just the preparation, you know, and awareness that was made by both of you with the folks that participated. So it really does stand out. And I remember, you know, we covered a lot of ground in those sessions, and we were even doing them in parallel, I recall, you know,
Yes.
moving, you know, moving in this room, moving in that room, you know, people going back and forth to see, you know, different subject areas. And, you know, that was really well conducted, and I'm glad everybody got the information they were looking for in those sessions. So, so now we're to question number 9. It'll be sad when this is over, but we'll do it again in 6 months or so when the project goes live. So the final question is a very general question. What advice would you give to people that are considering a move to Oracle Cloud applications? And Chuck, why don't you go first?
Well, the biggest piece of advice would be to really understand your current business processes and their limitations, so that you're prepared for going beyond that, and to have a perspective of and maybe willingness to embrace the changes that are coming. Having that kind of an attitude makes the design and confirmation of the design process so much easier. The other thing is that one of the things, Sandy mentioned the quarterly updates earlier, and one of the things that sort of forces upon us, and in a very good way, is that we really can't do any customizations. We really have to adapt to the software. And for years, as you know, Brian, for years, everyone that buys a new system has said, we're not customizing. And then most of the time they end up with, you know, 100 customizations or something like that. And that has an impact on upgrades and everything else. So having the quarterly updates, I think that's one of the biggest values of having the quarterly updates, is that it kind of keeps you from being able to customize.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing, Chuck, there, and Sandy, I'll move to you on that question too. But the other thing I think that I've observed with cloud implementations is that it's great that the application has so many more configuration tools that Oracle realized that customizations are no longer available. And so instead, let's build it out into the configuration tools, as far as, you know, being able to take advantage of user-defined fields, the look and feel, you know, more, I would say, more interactive ways to report on the data, things like that, which were previously causing those customizations in the first place. Right. So I think that people, you know, I think especially, you know, some of the early adopters of the cloud applications had some anxiety just around not having that capability to be able to do customizations, but then they found that there were way more tools to be able to configure it, but yet still stay on that single code line and have those quarterly updates be able to be adopted each 3 months or whatever.
And just moving on from there, Brian, you know, the other thing that we found to be very helpful was script your demonstrations, so that if you are having issues with your current system, you should ask Oracle or your other ERPs that you're looking at, how they would address those issues. So you understand the functionality of each of the systems. I think that that was really important for us to be able to see with Oracle.
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
great insight, because what I did notice about your demos that were different than a number of other ones that we've participated in over the past few years is that yours were scripted according to things that you really thought were somewhat unique or particularly significant as far as being pain points in your current environment or areas of expansion. So things that you didn't have in your current system that you really wanted to see in Oracle Cloud applications and the other applications that you were looking at, but not just focusing on kind of the rudimentary processes and transactions. So instead of building it up from the rudimentary and getting into maybe some of the advanced functionality through the course of the demo, you guys went straight to like, this is functionality we want to see because it's either a pain point or it's something we don't have. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think it makes it more efficient and certainly contributes to the energy level, I would say, of both sides. To be able to focus that way.
Yeah.
And it facilitates great decision making when it comes to selecting your ERP vendor, and that's why we selected Oracle, because they were very efficient at addressing all of the issues that we put forward.
Great.
And Brian, we kind of made an assumption that any system can pay an invoice,
right,
or post a journal entry, and so we want to see that, but we also want to see those other things because we want to see where we can go versus where it is. So
right,
kind of took that approach.
Well, great. Well, that brings us up to the conclusion of the questions that I had. Thank you so much again for your participation and for sharing, all these nuggets of wisdom. Before we conclude, do you guys have any parting words for the audience?
Ask me next week, because we're going to get into testing next week. And we're very anxious to see the system with our information in it so that we can see how the transactions are moving through the system and we can get a feeling for how the system will work for us. Very much looking forward to that.
And Brian, I would just add, I know this is focused on the system, but the Sierra-Cedar team that you assigned to our project has been very, very helpful and had a lot of insight for us on how to use the system to better fit what we want to do. And in many cases, guide us into what we want to do to be what will work. And it's been very, very beneficial for us.
Yeah, we've had a great team here. Great team.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. And we certainly value beyond words the relationship that we formed with the city and with the school district, with both of you, and we're looking forward to the second half of the project. The team has worked so hard, and they deserve all the success that they're enjoying, and I'm excited too that they're going to be able to see a lot of these transactions and the piloting that's occurring next week, and see their data in the system and really realize the vision that they've had for the past few months. So I hope this interview was as fun for you as it was for me. It's a Friday afternoon as we're talking here, and I think it's a great way to head into the weekend. It's a beautiful day here. Hopefully it's a beautiful day in Stamford and Chuck, where you're at, in the Twin Cities. And thank you so much again for participating in this episode. I know everybody's going to get a lot of value out of it, and I appreciate you sharing, again, your experiences. For the audience, I wish everybody the best. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye-bye.